there. Walk with me, oh come and see the quiet desert there, where I give my Torah all my way, to give the way of life the length of day. Come out to the wilderness, I'll be your cover there. Oh, walk with me, oh come and see the quiet desert there, where I give my Torah all my way. I give my way of life and length of day. But it I speak thereof, betrothed you to me forever. We praise your name, O Holy One. Oh, let us walk together. Let us speak Leolam. I betroth you to me forever. We praise your name, O Holy One. Oh, let us walk together. Go out to the desert land where my glory sing. Prepare the way and bring my day when all upon me lean. Oh, walk with me beneath the glory cloud. Oh, where I provide all that I have. Again. Go out to the desert land where my glory's seen. Prepare the way and bring my day when all upon me lean. Oh, walk with me beneath the glory cloud, where I provide all that I provide. And I'll speak me, Leolam, I betroth you to me forever. We praise your name, O Holy One. Oh, let us walk together. And I'll speak Leolam, I betroth you to me forever. We praise your name, O Holy One. Oh, let us walk together. Nothing else do I desire. To walk with Adonai in the desert with Elohim. We lift up El Shaddai. Nothing else do I desire but walk with Adonai. Oh, in the desert with Elohim, we lift up El Shaddai. Oh, we lift up El Shaddai. And I'll speak Leolam, I betroth you to me forever. We praise your name, O Holy One. Oh, let us walk together. Oh, let us walk together. Come out to the wilderness. Come out to the wilderness. I'll be your lover there. Oh, walk with me. Oh, come and see the quiet desert there, where I give my Torah all of my way. I give the way of life and length of days. Go out to the desert. Go out to the desert land where my glory chesed u'berachamim. I betroth you to me forever. Betroth you to me in righteousness, in mercy and compassion, and you will know the Lord. Water from the sky, water from the rock, water for your vineyard and water for your flock. Pour out your spirit, pour out your fire at the mountain of God as your people lift you higher. Over us, I betroth you to me forever. Betroth you to me in righteousness, in mercy and compassion, and you will know that us deeply, and us deeply, let us deeply, let's I betroth you to me forever. Betroth you to me in righteousness, mercy and compassion, and you will know the Lord. I betroth you to me forever. Betroth you to me in righteousness, in mercy and compassion, and you will know the Lord. And you will know the Lord. And you will Thank you, Lord, that you have betrothed your people Israel, and then you invited everyone into that bride. I thank you, Abba, that you love your people Israel, and that your betrothal and your marriage will never end. Your love for your bride will never end. Thank you, Abba. I ask that your Ruach, your spirit and your Torah, your instruction, would show us amazing things out of your Torah. In the name of Yeshua. Amen. If you're not subscribed to the Tzion channel, please subscribe to the channel, like the videos, share the videos, and then also we are starting to create a voice, a way to get out Eileen's voice into the universe, because she is such an amazing, she has so many amazing revelations that she cannot contain them. So we're going to try to get them out so that we can release that crock pot full of pressure and she can start cooking and get those messages out. She's got an amazing voice. She's a prophet. And if you have not ever gotten the notes for the teachings that I do every Shabbat, You can get those notes by emailing me at levtzionmessianic@yahoo. And I'd also ask that you would, if you're interested in hearing Eileen's voice, that you would send your email address and contact us so that Eileen can then get you her voice. And I'd like to get you my voice too with the notes. You can get these notes, the copy of the slides, by contacting Lev Messianic at Yahoo. Sorry, at Gmail. Thank you, Becca. At Gmail, not at Yahoo. Scratch Yahoo, add Gmail. Messianic at Gmail. Okay, enough of those ads. So now we're going to move from Yitziat Mitzrayim. What does Yitziat Mitzrayim mean? Already a quiz. You hadn't even started and already it's a quiz. What does Yitziat Mitzrayim mean? No, that's Eretz Mitzrayim. Yitziat. Coming out. The coming out of Egypt, or what they call the Exodus. Yitziat Mitzrayim. Remember, everything in Judaism, every prayer, everything, like when we put on tzitzit, when we put on tefillin, everything is a memorial of the Yitziat Mitzrayim. That Yitziat Mitzrayim appears in 50 times a week in our prayers. Yitziat Mitzrayim. Everything is Yitziat Mitzrayim. So we're supposed to always remember the coming out of Egypt. Well, the coming out of Egypt is not complete until we come to this week's Torah portion and come to Mount Zion. Sorry, Mount what? No, not Mount Tzion. Thank you, Becca. At least one person's paying attention. Come on. We come out of Egypt to Mount what? Sinai. Har Sinai. Now that's the completion of the spring festivals from Passover, Hag HaMatzah, Bikurim, which is first fruits, all the way to the second first fruits, which is Shavuot or Pentecost. Now you have a complete story. The story is not complete until today, until we come to Har Sinai. So the name of the teaching is, where do you keep your covenant? Where do you keep your covenant? And there's two covenants that were given at Mount Sinai. Can anybody tell me what they are before I even teach? This is a pre-teaching test. Yes?
Torah. He gave the covenant of Torah.
Okay, there's two. What are the two covenants? So that can't be right because you only said one.
Shabbat and circumcision.
No, not Shabbat and circumcision, but good guess. What else?
And establishment?
But that's the mitzvot.
10 words.
10 words? Festivals? Nope. Okay. So the two covenants are the covenant of the marriage, where God takes his bride, Israel, which is the pictures. So if one of the covenants is the Tavniot, the pictures, what's the other one?
The curse.
Thank you, Eileen. What is it?
The curse.
The curse of the Torah. Both of them were given at Mount Sinai. Both of them. The curse of the Torah was given at Mount Sinai. And the Tavniot in the Torah was given at Mount Sinai. Two covenants. But they're really one covenant. All right, so that's one little tiny part of what we're going to look at. So I'm talking about, where do you keep your covenant? You'll see why I call it that. We're going to read all the way from Exodus 19 through Exodus 20. Now, I've got the Torah scroll open to the 10 words. By the way, it's not 10 commandments. It's Asera Hadibrot, which means 10 the words, or 10 things. The 10 things or the 10 words. It never says commandments, ever, not once. Every time it talks of these 10 utterances that came out of God's mouth, it always calls them Asera Hadibrot. Never says 10 commandments. So that is a mistranslation in all Bibles. In the third month after the sons of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, what is that called? Say it together. Say it together. I just taught you. Oh, goodness. Yitziat. Say Yitziat. Mitzrayim. Yitziat Mitzrayim. The going out of Egypt. In the third month after Yitziat Mitzrayim, On that very day, they came. Now, I taught this a few weeks ago at Shemot, at the first Torah portion in Exodus. Ba'u, they came into the wilderness of Sinai. When they departed, Vayisa'u, from Rephidim, and they came, Vayavo'u, to the wilderness, and they camped, Vayachanu. Now, all four of those, were they plural or singular?
Plural.
They were all plural, right. Ba'u, Vayisa'u, Vayavo'u, Vayachanu. They this, they that, they the other, they the fourth. But then all of a sudden, in the same verse, it switches tenses, and it says, and there camped Israel, singular. Vayichan Sham, singular. So they're all disunified, they're all split up, they're all in gangs. All the time that they're traveling in those 3 months from Egypt all the way to Har Sinai. But as soon as they come to Har Sinai, what happens? They become one. Now that's exactly what it says in verse 1 of Acts chapter 2. In Acts chapter 2, it's Shavuot. This is Shavuot. What we're reading is Shavuot. The third month, the third day, 3 days later is Shavuot. And in Acts chapter 2, it says it was Shavuot. And they were all together in one place. Well, if it's Shavuot, where are all the Jews? Where are all the Jews if it's Shavuot? Jerusalem where? In the temple. 3 times a year, all Jewish males must go up to the temple. One of them is Shavuot. And they're all together in one place. They're unified. And that's exactly what it says here. They're split, they're split, they're split, they're split. Come to Mount Sinai on Shavuot, and they're unified. They're one man. That's why it says that in Acts chapter 2, verse 1. Because all the rest of Acts chapter 2 repeats everything that the Jews saw and heard at Mount Sinai. Israel came in front of the mountain, and Moshe went up to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain, saying, this is what you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the sons of Israel. You yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I carried you on eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. Now then, if you will indeed hear my voice, keep my covenant. He hasn't made the covenant yet, has he? Has he made the covenant with Israel?
No.
But he says, if you'll keep my covenant. He hasn't made it yet. Now, he's made a covenant with who? Who has he made a covenant with? Abraham. Who else? Yitzchak and Yaakov. But he has not made a covenant with all these 2+ million people. But he says, if you'll keep my covenant, you'll hear my voice and keep my covenant, then you will be my own possession among all the peoples. That's taking Israel as his own, as a bride. For all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. So Moshe came and called the elders of the people and set before them all these words, which Yehovah had established him. Then all the people answered together and said, all the Lord has spoken. Kol asher diber Adonai na'aseh. All that means is all the words that came out of Yehovah, we will what? Do. That's all it says. Now, they don't really know anything yet. They haven't been really told anything or seen anything. All they know is God brought them, and he says to Moshe, hey, I brought you like a bride to me. Go tell him that. So he goes and he tells them, and they all go, everything that God said. And by the way, this is 3 million people talking all at once. And they also say the same words. Kol asher diber Adonai na'aseh. That's weird. And they all say the same thing. And Moshe brought back the words of the people to the Lord. Lord, they said, they're going to do all your words. Then the Lord said to Moshe, look, I will come to you in a thick cloud so that the people may hear when I speak with you and may also believe in Jesus Christ forever. I'm telling you, these are some of the weirdest words in the Bible. I love them. God wants Israel to believe, not believe in God forever, believe in Moshe forever. That's what it says. I'm going to come in this big giant cloud. Why? So they can hear when I'm speaking to you and believe in you, Moshe, forever. Those are weird words, isn't it? Isn't that strange? I want the Jews to believe in Moshe forever. Period. And he never changed his mind about that. This is extremely important because I don't know if you're going to be able to understand what I'm saying, but it says in Hebrews chapter 3 and chapter 4, it talks about the day of the Lord, and it says that God created a house, and that house is Moshe. And into that house, he's drawing everybody. Not Jesus. Moshe is the house. Do you understand? This is in the New Testament, in the book of Hebrews, that it says in the New Testament, in Hebrews, God says, I'm creating a house, and that house is Moshe. And I want all the people to be part of that house. That is astounding. But that's what he says here. Now, if that doesn't turn you on, something's wrong. that is just amazing to me. It's mind-blowing. The Lord said to Moshe, go to the people and consecrate them for the third day. For on the third day, so they came to Mount Sinai on 3/3, third month, same day. Third month, third day. Now he says, get them ready for 3 days. So on what date is God going to come down on the mountain?
3/6.
Come on.
3/6.
Okay, you didn't follow. They come to Mount Sinai on 3/3, third month, third day. Then God says, get them ready for 3 days, because in 3 days I'm coming. So on what date does God come and show up? 3/6. That's Shavuot. So he says, get them ready for the third day, but you will set boundaries for the people all around the mountain, saying whoever touches the mountain will surely be put to death. When the ram's horn sounds a long blast, they shall come up to the mountain. That's terrifying. So not only is there this huge, loud shofar, they're supposed to approach that mountain. But now he said, I want you to set boundaries around it for the 12 tribes. There were 12 pillars. By the way, they found these pillars. They're there in Saudi Arabia. You can see them. They're all knocked down, but they're still there in pieces. They're about this big around, carved out of limestone, I believe, and they're in pieces about this big. And there were 12 of them all around the mountain, so they couldn't get near the mountain. Yes?
I'm seeing something like prophetic here where it says, go to the people and consecrate them for the third day. You just stop right there for the third day. Messiah comes
Right.
in the year 4000.
Okay, I know exactly what you're going. Let me get it on tape. So he says, get them ready for the third day. So Yeshua came and he died in the year 4000, right? That's at the end of the fourth day. So that means he lived, toward the end of the fourth day. Then he dies at the end of the fourth day, 2 more days until the kingdom, which is the third day. So it's like, get them ready because God's going to show up on the third day. So it's the revelation. By the way, the number one title in Judaism of Shavuot, you know what it is? Anybody know what it is? The number one title in Judaism of Shavuot? Of Mount Sinai?
Is it the awakening class?
No. Nobody knows? It's called the revelation at Mount Sinai. Revelation means we saw. The showing up of God at Mount Sinai. That's what it's called. Because he says, on the third day, God's going to show up. That's a picture of the coming of the day of the Lord. And God showing up. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Very good, Eileen. Whoever touches the mountain shall surely be put to death. When the ram's horn sounds a long blast, they shall come up to the mountain. So Moshe went down from the mountain. So it came about on the third day, when it was morning, that there were thunder, that's the word kolot, should be plural, thunder rings, sorry about that, kolot, and lightning flashes. This is barakim, barak is lightning, and a thick cloud over the mountain and a very loud shofar sound, so that all the people who were in the camp trembled. Why are they trembling?
Fear.
Fear of what? It's not the lightning. It's not the thunder. It's the shofar blast. Remember, that's the signal. Okay, guys, come on. No! Are you kidding me? Anybody who touches that mountain is going to die. And now there's this loud shofar. And this is not blown by a human. So this is a loud shofar we can't even imagine. What the rabbis say is it permeated their bodies in the form of tongues, languages, and that God spoke in tongues. When did it, in the New Testament, when did people speak in tongues? Acts chapter 2, which is what date? Shavuot. This is Shavuot. See where it says, where's kolot? Where'd it go? There it is. Kolot, that's the word for languages, tongues. So we translate it as thunder, but it's not really thunder. It's tongues. God is speaking in the tongues of the 70 languages. And by the way, it repeats it later on. After he shows up and gives the 10 words, it happens again. Kolot and lightning, it happens before the giving of the 10 words. Please forgive me. And lightning flashes, barakim, and a thick cloud over the mountain, and then the shofar sounds, and they are terrified. So that all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moshe brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood beneath the mountain, Tachat Tahar. Now the rabbis say in Mechilta and a couple other passages in the Talmud, it says that God said this. He holds the mountain over them, and says, if you accept my words, well and good, it is your covering. If not, I'm going to drop it on you, and it will be your death. Now, the picture is true. It may not be exactly true, but the picture is true. That they're given a choice to accept one of two things. The curse of the law and be crushed, or they can accept the pictures that God is about to give, where he gives all the pictures of heaven in the form of the tabernacle, in the form of the laws or the commandments or whatever you want to call them, hokim, statutes, etc., that we're going to do as a picture of the kingdom. All the things that God's about to give, all the, quote, laws that he's about to give, they're pictures. And he says, look, you can have it you can have it either way. You can have it as the curse, and I'll drop it on you, and it will kill you. Or you can accept my covenant as a bride. Now, I don't know if that's true. May have happened, but I know the picture is right. So that covering of the mountain can be one of two things. It can be either a stone that falls on you and crushes you. Can you think of any verses that say that? Can you think of any verses that say that?
Daniel?
No, not Daniel. That's when the stone comes and smashes the idol. This is a verse that says the stone will fall on you and crush you.
You can fall on the rock, or the rock can fall on you.
Well, that's part of it. It says you can fall on the rock and be broken, or the rock will fall on you and crush you to dust. Now that's in the New Testament, right? What do you think he's quoting? He's quoting this midrash that's been around forever, that says that this mountain, Har Sinai, is raised up over Israel, and it can be a covering in one of two ways. It can be either a rock to fall on you and crush you, or a chuppah. You're a bride, so that's your chuppah. And so it says in Hebrew 3 times, Tachat Hahar. They came underneath the mountain. It shouldn't say that. We should say Lifnei Hahar, in the face of the mountain, in front of the mountain. It doesn't say that. It says it once, Lifnei. The other 3 times it says Tachat Hahar, underneath the mountain. Well, how did they get underneath the mountain? God lifted it up. Now, whether that's true or not physically, I don't know, but I know that the picture is correct. So again, we have 2 covenants. We have the covenant of the curse of the law. Drop it on you and kill you. Follow what I'm saying, please, because this applies to your life. You can either be under the curse of the law. Anybody, any Gentile, any Jew can be under the curse of the law. Do you keep Shabbat? Oh, yes, I keep Shabbat. And what does God say to you in it? I keep Shabbat. Goody for you. You get a brownie point. And you get crushed. There's nothing in it. Nothing. Or you can have the covenant, the brit of a bride, which is the pictures, where God tells us everything we need to know about spiritual things. And we're not left alone. Isn't that amazing? Now that's what you're going to see more and more develop as we keep reading through this. These two covenants. Where was I? They stood Tachat Har. Now Mount Sinai was all in smoke. Mount Sinai was all in smoke because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and its smoke ascended like the smoke of a smelting furnace. Now there's two words for furnace or stove, not stove, oven. There's tinor, which is like, the bread baking ovens that you see that they make out of adobe. They still do it in El Paso. They make these little ovens that are kind of round. Well, they did that anciently in the Bible. That's a tinor. It doesn't get super hot. But in order to smelt metal, there's another kind of furnace, another kind of oven, and that's this. I can't remember the word in Hebrew, but it's a smelting furnace. And the entire mountain quaked violently. So a smelting furnace and a tinor, just a regular old oven, what's the difference between them? Besides the heat, what's the difference?
The color.
The color of what?
The way it's made.
Of the fire,
The color of the fire. Okay, but how does that fire get a different color?
because of how intense it is.
Okay, if we had a tinor, we had a big room. We have a tinor on one side, and then we have a smelting furnace on the other, and they're smelting iron. We walk into that room, what are we going to hear? Crackling from which one? From both? What are we going to hear in the smelting furnace that we don't hear from the regular old oven? Which is oxygen. You got to get oxygen into that fire. You use a bellows, and you push that oxygen into the fire, right? Right? That's the sound. Thank you. That's the sound of a mighty rushing wind, which is what it says in Acts chapter 2. So they heard that here too, only on a national scale. This is a scale we can't imagine. So we got this sound of this horrible, blowing of oxygen, and there's fire, and then the entire mountain quaked violently. When the sound of the shofar grew louder and louder, now it gets even worse. They're already terrified from the sound of the shofar, aren't they? Yeah? And now it gets louder and louder and louder. And so they're like, this is not being blown by a human. This is like from heaven. Terrifying. And then it says, Moshe spoke, and God answered him with kolot, with tongues. With tongues. And by the way, that is what the rabbis say. The rabbis say, the sages say this in the Talmud. You can look it up for yourself. You can find it all over the internet now. Back when I first heard it, you couldn't find it because there was no such thing as the internet. And I found it and I flipped out. But now you can go find it yourself. This is what the rabbis say. They say that when God spoke, he spoke in the 70 languages of the earth. And he offered the Torah to the whole world in their own language. And nobody accepted it. Nobody except Israel, who said, all the words that you've spoken, we will do. That's why those words are so important. So God spoke in tongues, in 70 tongues. Then the Lord came down on Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain, and the Lord called Moshe to the top of the mountain, and Moshe went up, and the Lord said to him, go down and come up. What am I, a yo-yo? I just came up. Go down, but then come back up. So he's telling him, go down, come up, go down, come up. Yes?
You know how you said that God gave the Torah to all the nations?
Yes, he gave it. He offered it to all 70 tongues.
Yeah. So because no one else accepted it, that's why the Torah is only in Hebrew, right?
That is correct. That's why the Torah is only in Hebrew, because that's the only tongue that accepted it. So it couldn't be in any other tongue. It could only be in Hebrew because God's people, the Hebrews, the Jews, accepted it. And so they could then read it and teach it to the rest of the Gentiles.
And so that no one would say, we didn't know about it because it was offered to everybody.
Right, and that's, the excuse is, well, I never knew. That's what Gentiles always say. I didn't know. I don't know Judaism. I don't know that stuff. Well, your forefathers were offered it, and they said, no thanks. There's no excuse. But also that puts a lot of onus on the Jewish people to reach the Gentiles and tell them about Judaism and the God of the Jews. That's our job. So then the Lord came down on Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain. The Lord called to Moshe, and he goes up, and then he says, go down and come back up, you and Aaron with you, but don't let the priests and the people break through to come up to the Lord, or he'll break out against them. So Moshe went down to the people and told them, the Lord spoke all these words, Kol hadvarim, all these words, saying the 10 words. You see what it said? God spoke, Kol hadevarim, all these things, or all these words, and he said the 10 words. That's why it's called 10 words and not 10 commandments. It never says there were 10 commandments. It says they were words, they were things. 10 words. So here's a picture of, why don't we turn the lights off? Here's a picture of Shavuot, and there's the shofar getting louder and louder and louder, and all the people, and they don't want to get anywhere near that mountain. And so they're far away from the mountain. And even the ones who are close to the mountain, they're not even close. They can't get close. And this is what God says. And it starts with an aleph. Anochi Yehovah Elohecha. I am Yehovah, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. The very first thing God says, I am Yehovah. I'm the one who did Yitziat Mitzrayim. And that's why we remember Yitziat Mitzrayim in everything Jewish, because it's the first thing God said to everybody. And remember, God is offering this. He offered this to everybody, and nobody accepted it. Yes?
And in the verse right before, I think it's in the verse right before, it says, God spoke all these words, saying, in that one, it has et. God spoke, Aleph Tav.
God spoke et, Aleph Tav, the beginning and the end. He spoke everything from beginning to end. Very good. Number 2, have no other gods before me. Before my face is what it says, literally. Have no other gods before my face. Number 3, you shall not make for yourself an idol or a likeness of what is in heaven above, or on earth beneath, or in the water under the earth. You shall not worship them or serve them. Why? Because I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. I am El Kinah, God of jealousy. I visit the iniquity of the fathers on the 3rd and 4th generations, not of everybody. And this is what people go, we need to break that generational curse. That's stupid. It's just ridiculous. Who does it say he visits the iniquity to the 3rd and 4th generation on? Those who? Those who hate me. Sinah. Hate. Those who hate God. Okay, you hate me? Fine. I'm going to put it on you and your children, your children, your children's children. There's no such thing as a generational curse. That is a lie.
It's not scriptural. There's nothing to support it in the Bible, ever. We are responsible for our own sins, and when we do teshuvah, we can stop the chain of sin in a family. It just stops it. It ends it. Done. For us. Can't speak for anybody else, but for us, done. So this terror and fear of, oh, it's a generational curse, I need to break it, that's stupid. It's just, there's nothing in the Bible to support that, ever. I've been a believer 44 years. I've been looking for 44 years. In Hebrew and in Greek. I can't find any verses to support it. So you got to do your own research, but don't believe me, but I'm telling you, you need to go find out that is a foolish belief system. It's foolishness.
Isn't that just learned behavior, just as you learn to do what God
Of course, it's learned behavior. Of course, every single thing we believe and know and do in a religious world is all sociology. It's all peer pressure. It's all learned behavior. So you can learn one way or you can learn the other. It's up to you. But if you want to learn God's way, you got to be taught God's way by those who've been doing God's way, which is the Jewish people. It's all pretty logical. So, if you can do it, let go of that thing about generational curses. I am a jealous God. I'm El Kinah. I visit the sin of the fathers onto the third and fourth generation, but only of those who hate me. Now everybody else, I show loving kindness to thousands. And by the way, the rabbis say that means thousands of generations. Because he's talking about generations, right? Thousands of generations to those who love me, who observe my mitzvot. So therefore, how do you show that you love God? By observing the mitzvot. It says it right there. That's how. I don't know if I should say something here or not. Don't? Okay. Okay. Well, I'll just say this, that the gauge, God has a gauge. He's got like a plumb line. And that plumb line is Judaism. And people walk up to that plumb line and they can see if they're crooked or not. And as far as who loves God, like when we look at somebody, we go, oh, they love God. Well, just make sure that they're perpendicular, straight up and down when they walk up to Judaism. And they're keeping the mitzvot. Because if they're not, that's the plumb line that determines who really loves God. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Thank you for being obedient, because as a Jew...
I'm not obedient.
Well,
I listen.
Listened and did what God told you as a Jew to teach.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate that. You're welcome. Next one. I don't want to talk about this much. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in... Now this word is lashav, and it means wickedness, waste, like destruction, or a lie. It could also mean a lie. Why? Because the Lord will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in lashav. This does not mean saying GD. It doesn't mean that at all. Not at all. Not in any way, shape, or form. It means using his name for waste, for nothing. Like, I'll give you just one example. I've got millions of them, but I'll just give you one. I've got thousands, actually. There was a woman who spent close to $500,000 many years ago. She was a Messianic Gentile. And she spent close to $500,000 on a wedding, on her wedding, printing stuff and buying artwork and stuff like that. And why? Because the Lord told her she was going to marry this Jewish guy. He just happened to be married at the time. And he stayed married. He's still married. She never married him. It all went to nothing. It all drained away into vanity and nothing. Just foolishness. I made a lot of money from it. I'm not ashamed to say. In fact, I'm very proud to say. I made a lot of money from that. I knew it was foolishness. But I told her, are you sure God told you? She said, oh, yes, I'm positive. I said, well, I don't believe you. I don't think it was God. But you know what? If you want to buy my artwork, let's go for it.
Amen.
So I was honest with her. I told her what was what. And she ended up blessing me and my wife tremendously with money and a ring. But that's using the Lord's name for vanity. Like, I'm going to use his authority to get what I want. That's the word lashav.
And God used her to bless you.
Yeah, that's right. Wickedness, waste, lie, lashav. All right, next one. Zakor et HaShabbat. Now, in here, in Exodus, it says Zakor, remember. But in Deuteronomy, when it's a restatement of God speaking these words, it's not the word Zakor. Anybody know what the word is? Shemor, very good. Observe, Shemor. So what? God at the same time said Shemor and Zakor out of the same mouth at the same time?
Yes.
Absolutely. He did both. Remember, he spoke in 70 languages at the same time. So big deal. Remember Shabbat day to keep it holy. For 6 days you shall labor and do your work, but the seventh day is the Shabbat of the Lord your God, and on it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter or your male or female slave or your cattle or resident who stays with you, that's a Gentile. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and everything that is in them, and he rested on the seventh day. So the Lord blessed Shabbat day and made it holy. Now that passage right there, that's what we sing. We've done it once in a while when we're doing Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. That's wrong. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvoto v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kadasho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu. That's this. Zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit. That's this. That's what we just read. Honor your father and your mother so that your days are lengthened on the land which the Lord your God gives you. Kavod et avecha I amecha. Va'amecha. Now, anybody know who had the greatest amount of honor for their parents in the whole Bible? Anybody know?
Esau.
Very good. Very good. Chris? Esav. Esav had the highest amount of kavod for his parents than anybody in the Bible. And he's the one that God says, I hate Esav. Only one in the whole Bible God says he hates. And yet he's the only one in the whole Bible who has the highest amount of kavod for his parents. So that was his only really, really good trait, was that he showed kavod for his parents, honor for his parents. No, now this is all it says in Hebrew. Lo tirtach, no murder. That's all it says. It doesn't say.
You didn't read the father, honor your father and mother.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. That your days are lengthened on the land which the Lord your God gives you. I read that.
I had a question about that.
Yes, sir.
What does it mean by honoring your father and mother?
I don't know. The question is, what does it mean by honor your father and mother? Everybody's got a different opinion, and the rabbis have different opinions. But the bottom line is, don't ever do anything to shame them. I know that. Don't do anything to shame them.
Disrespect, no disrespect.
Don't do anything to disrespect them, which is to shame them. It's basically a synonym. Don't do anything to put them down or make them feel bad. Now, you can rebuke them, you can talk to them, you can have a different opinion, but you can never put yourself above them. Put them down so that you're up above them. Ever. Now, the word kavod means glory. Honor it's not really honor, it's give glory to your mother and father. Well, what's glory? Big, up, high. Yes? Yes. So, lift them up, make them big. Even if they're idiots, it's okay. Make them big. Don't ever put them down below you. And if we just keep it at that level, if we keep it at that level, I think you all can figure out what that means. Don't ever put yourself above them. Keep them up. Keep yourself down. Make sense? And why is that? Because they're your covering. You're not their covering. They're above. You're below. So that's all I want to say about that. Now, all it says in Hebrew is lo tirtzach, no murder. That's it. All it says is no adultery. It doesn't say thou shalt not commit. It doesn't even say commit no. It just says no murder, no adultery. And by the way, I don't think you guys know what adultery is.
Yeah, probably not.
Adultery is any sexual union that ain't a man and a woman who are married. Period. Anything. It could be even, macking in a back seat. That's adultery. Anything. Anything. Making out. Going to second base, third base, fourth base. It's all adultery.
Is it the same as fornication?
Well, yeah, fornication is just an old world word for adultery.
I thought fornication was between unmarried people and adultery
No.
was a married
No,
person.
in what? In what language?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. It's translations. You're talking about English translations of a Hebrew word. The Hebrew word, the rabbis tell us what it means, and it means any sex between anybody that isn't a man and a woman who are married with each other, period. And even that has to be done right, or it's adultery. Like if a man has sexual relations with his wife and it's during her period, that's adultery. So it has to be done the right way and it has to be done with the right people. Everything else is adultery. Very, very small camp that's not adultery. Everything else is adultery. And I'm just telling you what the rabbis say.
How did they define marriage back then?
Oh my gosh. I can't answer that. That's a big question. How did they define marriage back then? I'll tell you how to take a wife. There's 3 ways to take a wife. Number 1, sexual connection. Number 2, with a ketubah, or a present, a gift. And number 3, by having what we call nowadays a wedding, a service. What do they call it? A ceremony. All right. No murder, no adultery, no stealing. Nobody knows what stealing is. Nobody knows what's... Every time I talk to somebody and they say, I did this, I go, oh, that's stealing. No, I didn't steal. Yeah, you stole. Nobody knows what stealing is. Stealing is a huge, broad subject. There used to be a guy who loved my teachings, and he would steal them, and then he'd go teach them like they were his words. And he would, I'd watch him, and we would watch him, and he would get, he'd get bigger and bigger and bigger, because they'd go, oh my God, oh, that's such a beautiful teaching, oh wow. And I just sit back going, I taught him that. And that's stealing. And by the way, a lot of times I steal from the rabbis. And I try to always give like where this comes from, but sometimes I don't. And when I don't do that, then I read it later, I'm like, I stole. I should have said that was from the Maharal or whatever. And I don't. That's stealing.
So it's kind of like the plagiarism and stuff.
Plagiarism is stealing, absolutely.
I guess that's why so often they'll say, in the words of this rabbi, and he said it in the words of this rabbi.
That's why they do
he's
it.
stealing.
Yes, because you're giving kavod, you're giving honor
Right.
to your fathers.
Right.
They're called our fathers, our avot. Our fathers are Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and on all the Jews after that. They're our fathers. And their sages are our fathers. And I've stolen from my fathers many times. I'm trying not to do that anymore, but I still do it. Now this one is really good. Look at me. If you talk to rabbis or Orthodox or Hasidic Jews and you say, tell me the 10 words, tell me the 10 commandments, they go this and this and this. They get down to this one, they go, no lying. They just say, don't lie to your neighbor. What? Where do you get that from? That's what it says. Do not speak about your neighbor as an ed shaker. Shaker means lies. We live in a olam shaker. We live in a world of lies. Every single thing that you hear, everything you hear, I don't care who says it, I don't care what the source is, it's a lie. Unless it's a Jewish source. Everything else is a lie. It's a shaker. Because we live in a world of lies, illusions and lies and foolishness. But Judaism says, this is how it is. There it is. There's the plumb line, straight as an arrow. And then God comes along and says, don't speak about your neighbor with lies. Ugh. This is almost impossible. It's almost impossible to do. We have 15 conversations a week where we end up talking about our neighbor as a lying witness. We witness wrong. We don't communicate clearly. We don't communicate the right feeling or the right emotion or the right words or whatever. And it happens constantly. This one really bothers me because I'm trying to get where we stop doing this, but we still do it. Every day we do this. It's very difficult to be, number one, accurate, but that's nowhere near enough. The second thing is much, much harder, to communicate with the right heart. Like if Davida comes and says something to me, and then I try to communicate it to Eileen, something's going to get lost. It always does. And I start being an Ed Shaker. I'm a lying witness. Or the other way around. It goes the other way around. And it happens constantly. That we try to communicate, and we're just not mindful. We're not thoughtful about what we're communicating so that the other person is communicated properly. So we're a good witness. It's very, very, very difficult to do in this world. But we got to keep trying. We got to keep working at it. Yes?
So, exaggeration of a situation would be a lie. It's not
Exaggeration
accurate.
can be a lie, but not always.
Okay, so that's where all the Lashon Hara in that.
Yeah. Exaggeration can be an Ed Shaker, but not always. Or saying too little can be an Ed Shaker. You didn't say enough. You didn't communicate enough. It's a really, really hard thing to do. It's a hard tightrope to walk. But what makes it easier is what the rabbis and sages say about it, which means you got to read what they say about it. So I don't say anything, take pictures. Yeah, and so now, by the way, I do want to say something about this. The worst kind of Ed Shaker in our culture, in our society, you know what it is? Texting. It is the worst form of communication that has ever existed on this planet. Texting immediately leads to Ed Shaker. Because you can't see the person's eyes, number one. Number two, you either say too much or too little, and you can't take it back. It's out there in the universe. You know, with an email, you can hit delete. But with texts, you're trying to be quick, you're trying to be precise. I mean, not precise, brief, and you will make a mistake. I guarantee it. Please, please, please stop the texting. Stop it. Texting should be used just to communicate. That's it. Nothing spiritual, nothing to try to teach somebody, nothing like that. Just like, I'm going to be here at 9:30. That's it. Just information, brief information. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? It has caused so many problems, I can't even think about it. And this came up this week really big. So I'm glad I just thought of that because I did want to say something, but this gives me a perfect opportunity to frame it properly. I'm going to say it again. If you text, almost without fail, you are going to end up being an Ed Shaker. Almost without fail. Me too. I'm not just saying you. I'm saying me too.
So that becomes Lashon Hara.
It immediately becomes Lashon Hara. It's just us. You're skipping all the steps to walk into Lashon Hara. And the whole world is set up like this now. You know this. The whole world is set up to text. You can't even communicate without texting. At least that's what they tell you. It's a lie. That's a shaker. That's a lie. All right, last one.
I just wanted to add that, I know I'm guilty because you talk. Instead of an emergency or like you said.
Just communication, just a
Yeah.
brief message.
And chat. as they
Chat.
call it,
Yeah,
chat.
they even call it a
Yeah,
chat.
and so they track you that way.
Yes.
And I think that's
Chatting doesn't exist. Chatting is what people used to do when they'd walk up to each other and go, "Hey, how you doing today?" "I'm doing great." "Did you hear about my daughter?" "No, she's getting married." "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah.
That's chatting.
Instead of picking up.
Instead of an immediate descent into Lashon Hara. And it hurts people's feelings. Okay, this is the last one. Man, I thought this teaching was going to zip by. It's not.
Okay.
You shall not covet your friend's house. I'm already guilty. Already guilty. And I got a big house. Now think about that.
You have a nice home.
I've got a huge house. Huge. It's huge. It's many, many, many square feet. Way more than anybody else I know. And I covet other people's houses. Huh?
Smaller ones.
I covet even smaller ones, yeah. You shall not covet your friend's house. Now, it's not just house. It's their family. The house, in Judaism, the house is the tent. And in that tent is the mother and the father and the children and their culture and their life and how they do things and their food and the whole home. It's not really the house, it's the home. You shall not covet your friend's home. Their kids, their food, their, man.
Their lifestyle.
I don't want to go too far into this, but like if you look at a member of that family, and I wish my family was like that family, you're coveting your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your friend's wife. It doesn't just mean sexually. It means like, man, I wish my wife was like that. Or I wish my husband was like that husband. That's coveting a husband or a wife. Or his male slave, or his female slave, or his ox, or his donkey, or his car. That's what an ox and a donkey are. That's the car. Or anything that belongs to your friend. Now the word friend, Carlos taught on this last year, re'echa. Neighbor, it's not the word neighbor. Hello, neighbor. It's not neighbor. It's friend. It's re'echa. It's friend. Yes, sir.
Is there such a thing as to covet somebody else for good?
No.
Like,
No.
no?
Kavod, no, lo kavod. No, the word in Hebrew means to want. No, you can't. You know, people say that, I covet your prayers. What a dumb thing to say. I covet your, I don't know, some good thing. No, that's why, or else it would say that here, wouldn't it? It says, don't covet, period. So you need to go find out what the word covet means in Hebrew. Okay, now, I'm sorry to be boring you, but now we're through the 10 words, and all the people saw the voices. What? They saw the voices?
Yep.
How do they see voices?
Like that?
No, it's not in their they literally saw. Remember, the title of Mount Sinai is what? What's the big title of Mount Sinai? Come on. The revelation at Mount Sinai. They saw God. Literally saw. They literally saw the voices. They came out from God and they went into the people. And the words literally went into the people. Yeah. And now look what it says. Hey, what in Acts chapter 2, what appeared on the people's heads?
Tongues of fire.
Okay, that's a dumb phrase, tongues of fire. In Hebrew, you would say lapidot ha'ish. Lapidot. Torches. Torches. And that's what it says here. So they saw the tongues the 70 tongues, and the lapidim. It doesn't say lapidot, it says lapidim, which is all male. Lapidot is a female word, but it changes it and makes it male. Why? Because it's all Israel. It's all one man. And they saw the lapidim, they saw the torches, and the sound of the shofar, the mountain smoking. When the people saw, they trembled and they stood. Now, when it says they trembled and stood at a distance, that means they ran away. It doesn't mean they went, oh. That means they literally got up and ran, and they ran away from the mountain. And it says, they said to Moshe, you speak to us and we'll hear, but we can't hear God or we'll die. And Moshe said to the people, don't be afraid, because God has come in order to test you and in order that the fear of him may remain with you. He wants them scared. Yes? No, it's the word fear, terror, norah. He wants them to be afraid of God. Yes? I mean, that's what it says. Don't be afraid. He says, don't be afraid. Then he says God wants you afraid of him. Right? Yep. Don't be afraid, because God's come in order to test you and in order that the fear of him may stay in you.
Same word twice.
It's the same word twice. Don't be scared. Be scared. Okay, so what is he saying?
Norah can also be like awe.
What is he saying? It's altira. What is he saying? He's saying, right now, what's happening right now, this thing that you're seeing and it's coming at you, this is going to kill you. This is the stone that's going to be dropped on you and kill you, and you better be scared of it. So you run away from it, which you've done. You've run in the opposite direction. That's the curse of the law. He wants them scared of the curse of the law. Now, it says this in the New Testament, in Hebrews. It says he wants them scared of the curse of the law. He's not saying, I'm inviting you to the curse of the law. He's saying, I want you to run away from the curse of the law. And I want that fear to stick in you so you don't ever go back to it. I need you to follow what I'm saying here, because this is difficult. What are the two parts of the Torah?
Pictures and the curse.
The pictures and the curse. And both of them are being offered to Israel. One of them, he's got a rock that's going to drop on him. And the other one, he's got a talit over them as a bride. Okay? But he's offering both. Now, this is where everybody loses their mind in Christianity and in Judaism both. They can't figure out that there's two parts of the Torah, like it says in Colossians chapter 2, that the new moon, the Sabbath, the festivals, and the kosher laws is a shadow cast of things, plural, to come in the future. And the shadow is cast by Yeshua. That's the pictures. But at the same time, there's the curse of the law that was hammered to the cross when Yeshua died. Where does it say that? Oh, really?
New Testament.
We're talking about Colossians right now. Where is that? Where does it say that the curse of the law in handwritten ordinances that were hostile to you was nailed to the cross?
Isn't that in Hebrews?
Nope, it's also in Colossians chapter 2, 2 verses before what I just quoted. Okay? So it says in there it's two parts of the Torah. One was destroyed at the death of Yeshua, leaving the pictures. The curse was destroyed, leaving the pictures. But at this point, this is God offering the curse of the law and then scaring them away from it. Does that make sense? And they literally run in the opposite direction. And he says, don't be afraid. I want you to be afraid of God. And I want it to stick with you so that you will not sin. So the people stood at a distance. Stood at a distance. They never came back. They ran off. They said, don't talk. Don't let God talk to us. You talk, Moshe, and we'll listen to you. And he says, no, guys, stop. Don't be afraid. God wants you scared of this curse of the law. He wants you scared of it. But they never came back. They stood off far away because they ran off. And it says they stood at a distance. That means they never came back. Yes? That makes sense? So they're scared. So the people stood at a distance while Moshe approached the thick darkness where God was. Okay, now we're ready to start the teaching. Now I'm ready to start the teaching.
Nice.
I said I thought I was going to move fast. It didn't. So this is the route of the Yitziat Mitzrayim. Don't start. Don't start. This is the route of the Yitziat Mitzrayim. All the way from Egypt through Egypt. Anybody know what this is nowadays? What this is called? The Sinai Peninsula, where the whole world foolishly puts the traditional Mount Sinai. This is Egypt. That's why we gave it back in 19 whatever. When did we give it back? We gave the Sinai Peninsula back to the Egypt. I think it was in the 80s. I don't know. I can't remember. Why? It belongs to them. In the Bible, this is Egypt. This is Egypt. It belongs to them. So, yes, that's the Sinai Peninsula. They call it the Sinai Peninsula. It's not the Sinai Peninsula. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that. They just came up with that. Sinai is over here. In, as it says in Galatians, in Arabia. It says that in the Bible. So, that's the traditional route. Now, how long was it to get from Egypt to Mount Sinai?
3-day journey.
How long did it take them to get to Mount Sinai?
40 years.
No.
3 months.
3 months.
3 months, yeah.
They came to Mount Sinai in the third month, the third day, and then 3 days later, Shavuot. So it took them 3 months to go. Okay? It was supposed to take them, how long? 3 days, but it didn't. It took 3 months. Now, in the Yitziat Mitzrayim, at the Passover, we read the Passover Haggadah, and there's 4 fours in it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? You're still stuck on, we're ready to start the teaching. Let it go. I was kidding. Let it go. Let's move on. So there's 4 fours in the Haggadah, yes? So you have Man, Ishtana, Halayla, Hazeh, Mikol, Haleilot, the 4 questions. Yeah? And then right after that, we have the 4 sons. The wise son, the wicked son, the innocent son, and the one who doesn't even know how to ask a question. In other words, he talks like this by God, and he's an American. And he don't even know how to ask a question, and that's all right. So those are the 4 sons. Then you have 4 cups of wine during the Seder, and then these 4 statements that go with the 4 cups. I will bring you out, the first cup. I will deliver you, second cup. Did God do that?
Yeah.
I will redeem you. Did God do that? When? At the Passover. At the Passover. And then I will take you to me. 4th cup, 4th statement. Did he do that? No. No. He doesn't do that until Shavuot. I said we're reading the Haggadah. We're at Passover. We're in Egypt. And God's saying, I'm going to take you out of Egypt. I'm going to sanctify you. He did that. I'm going to deliver you. I'm going to bring you out. He did that. I'm going to deliver you. He did that. I'm going to redeem you. He did that at Passover. But he never took Israel to himself. Right? Until Shavuot. When he says, remember how I brought you to myself on eagle's wings. And you will be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Right? Okay, that's Shavuot. Which means the 4th cup shows us that Yitziat Mitzrayim, the coming out of Egypt, is not fulfilled until when? Shavuot. So that leads us to Shavuot. Now, these are a bunch of 3s associated with Passover. We just went over them. But what we didn't talk about is this. He says it's going to be a 3-day journey. It was supposed to be a 3-day journey to Shavuot. But it didn't take 3 days. How long did it take? 3 months, 3 days. Remember? 3 months, 3 days. Okay. All right. And by the way, look. Hold on. Look. How many times does Moshe say it's going to be 3 days? 3 times. So there's another 3. Yes, ma'am.
What took them 3 months was supposed to be 3 months, 3 days, because they didn't listen?
Yeah, they didn't listen. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. Okay. Now, these are all the threes of Shavuot. We just went through them. He says 3 times they're going to go 3 days in the wilderness. They come to Mount Sinai in the 3rd month, 3rd day. So it took 3 months, 3 days. Israel prepared for 3 days to meet God. And then Israel responded 3 times to the covenant. Now there's a bunch of 3s associated with Shavuot. 4s are associated with what? Yitziat Mitzrayim, Pesach, coming out of Egypt. But then it drops to 3, and there's all these 3s. And by the way, this is the words of the Maharal. Not my words. This is what the Maharal says. That there's many 3s associated with Shavuot. Okay, so Pesach isn't fulfilled until giving of the Torah at Shavuot. At the giving of the Luchot. Say Luchot. What does Luchot mean? Tablets. The Luchot is tablets. The tablets of the Edut, of the testimony. So you have a 3-month span. Starts with Yitziat Mitzrayim. It is not fulfilled until Shavuot. Now, what did Luchot look like? Listen, I just grabbed some stuff off the internet. There's millions, literally millions of pictures. No, let me change that. There's millions of Luchot in synagogues. Millions. For the last 2,000 years, they've been building synagogues with Luchot in them. And you can go anywhere, in any city in America or around the world, into a synagogue, and they're going to have a Luchot. They're going to have some sort of image of the Luchot. And they always look like this. You got 5 of the words on one side and 5 on the other. Always. Anochi, what is that? Anochi, what does that mean? I am the Lord. Elohecha, I am the Lord your God. Lo yiyeh, you shall not have any other gods. Lo tisa, you shall not make any idols. Zachor et, remember what? Shabbat. Right. Kavod et, what is that? Give glory to your father and your mother. Lo tirtzach, no murder. Lo t'na'af, no adultery. Lo tagnov, no stealing. Lo ta'neh.
No false witnesses.
Good, no false witness, no lying sheker witness. Lo tachmod, don't covet. Okay, they're all like this. Now this one's square. This is actually more accurate because the Luchot were squares. They were squares. So, but they all have 5 on one side, 5 on the other. Every synagogue in the world. Guess what? This is the minority opinion of what they were like. This is not the majority opinion in the first century by the sages. Did you know that? This isn't what they look like. Huh? No, I'm talking about with 5 on one side and 5 on the other.
4 and 6?
No, it's not 4 and 6. That's what the Catholics say.
Or they're just mixed.
Now look at this one. This freaked me out. Look at this. That's the front of a synagogue in Oregon. That's 40 feet tall. And it has the Luchot as the front of the synagogue. Isn't that a trip? Now this is the minority opinion. This is not the majority opinion of the rabbis. I'm going to show you. I'm going to prove it. The Gemara continues. How are the tablets written? Rabbi Hanina ben Gamliel says 5 on this tablet and 5 on that tablet, just like you had. This is as it is written, and he wrote them upon 2 tablets of stone, Deuteronomy. That is, 5 of the 10 words on this tablet and 5 on that tablet. But the rabbis say, what? So only one guy, Rabbi Hanina ben Gamaliel, gave the minority opinion, and then the rabbis, when it says, and the sages say, that means they all agreed. But they put both in the Talmud. They put both. They always put both. But the majority opinion was The rabbis say all of the 10 commandments, all the 10 words, were written on this tablet, and the same 10 were written on that tablet.
Oh.
Isn't that a trip?
So each one had all 10.
Each one had all 10.
The movies.
One for the people, one for God.
One
One for Moshe.
Shemot Rabbah says he wrote upon the tablets. It teaches that the first and second were identical. 10 words. How were they configured? There were 5 on this tablet and 5 on that tablet in accordance with the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. Now it's a different guy who says it. So Rabbi Yehuda agrees with Rabbi Hanina ben Gamaliel. So now we got 2. There were 5 on this tablet and 5 on that tablet in accordance with the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Nehemiah says, no, remember what the sages said. 10 on this tablet and 10 on that tablet. As it is stated, it was upon Moshe's descent from Mount Sinai and the 2 tablets of testimony. This is expounded to mean that on each of the 2 tablets, the entire testimony consisting of the 10 commandments was written. What do you think of that? Midrash Mechilta, later on. This is why the 10 words were given, 5 on one tablet and 5 on the other. That's a minority opinion. These are the words of Rabbi Hanina ben Gamaliel, just like you saw. The sages say they were given 10 on one tablet and 10 on the other. As it is written, Devarim, these things, just like it says in Exodus, these things the Lord spoke, and he wrote them, all of them, on 2 tablets of stone. In other words, he didn't just write 5 and 5. He wrote all of them on one and all of them on the other. Isn't that a trip? You ever heard of this?
No.
He made a copy. That's right. Shir HaSharim, Rabbah, Song of Solomon, the Midrashim about it. Rabbi Menachama said in the name of Rabbi Avun. Now he gives another minority opinion. They were hewn from the sun. How are they inscribed? 5 on this tablet, 5 on that. Why? Because there are 2 hands. One has 5, one has the other. Now Rabbi Avun, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Gamaliel all had the same opinion. But it wasn't the majority opinion. The rabbis said it was 10 and 10. In other words, it's a copy. So my question is why? Why did God give 2 of the same exact covenant? The same exact words of the covenant. It's a copy.
Pictures in the curse, like Chris said.
Pictures in the curse. So why 2 copies? Now, in ancient Near Eastern covenants, there's hundreds of them that they've found. They're set up in one of 2 ways. Either a parity treaty, which means we're equals. I'm not going to mess with you. You don't mess with me. Okay? Come on in. I don't mess with you, you don't mess with me. We're equals. But most of them are not like that. Most of them are called a suzerainty. Suzerainty treaty. Suzerainty treaty. It means a monarch talking to somebody below him. Now, there can be a treaty between equals, but there can also be a treaty from one that's bigger and one that's smaller. Right? God made a covenant with Avram. Was that a parity treaty, or I'm going to call it a monarch treaty? Parity treaty or monarch treaty? Hello? Parity treaty or monarch treaty? Monarch treaty. Now, count the stars if you're able, so that's how your seed will be. I'm the Lord who brought you out of Ur. So God makes a covenant with Abraham, yeah? And then he tells him to circumcise himself, and he says, that's the sign of my covenant. So if you're talking to Abraham and you said, where do you keep your covenant? What would he say?
In the stars.
Nope.
Which copy?
So I knew you weren't paying attention.
I know, we got to start.
Yeah, you did. In his pants.
In his pants.
Oh, that's right, you got circumcised.
He said, that is the sign of my covenant with you. Right?
Yeah.
That circumcision is the sign of my covenant with you. So if you said to Abraham, where do you keep your covenant? In my pants. That's where it is. Where does God keep his part of the covenant? That's the question. All right, what about God and Abraham again? God says to Avraham, now as for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your seed after you. Oh, I'm sorry. This is where he tells him about circumcision. I'm sorry. And he says that's going to be the sign of the covenant, the circumcision. So, Abraham and Avimelech. This is a parity covenant. These two guys are equal. And they're saying, you stay away from me and I'll stay away from you. We're going to make a covenant to say, you don't mess with me, I don't mess with you. Yeah? Hello? Don't get distracted. Come on, stay with me. So he says, I'm not going to mess with you. You're not going to mess with me. It's a covenant. This is a parity treaty. God and Isaac. Then God confirms the covenant with Isaac. But look what he says. Live for a time in this land, and I'll be with you and bless you. For to you and to your seed I'll give these lands, and will establish the oath. Why? I will multiply your seed as the stars of heaven. Why? Because Abraham listened to my voice and observed the mishmarim, the watches, my mitzvot, my chokim, and my Torot. He did Judaism. And therefore, I am going to confirm this oath. This is a kingly covenant, a melech covenant, from the king to one who's below him. Where did Isaac keep his covenant? In his pants. Where did God keep his copy of the covenant? That's the question, yeah? Does that make sense? This is
his throne with the emerald stone that you cut the Torah?
That's way too deep. I'm just trying to keep it simple. If he says, you got a copy, I got a copy. Yeah? You keep your copy on your person, on your body, in your circumcision. Where's God going to keep his copy? So this is the question. I want you to think about this. Like, where does he keep his copy of the covenant? In Judaism, where do we keep our copy of the covenant? Not with God. What other covenant do we make?
In us.
Where do we make, what other kind of covenant do we as Jews, doing Judaism, make? You can't think of any covenants we make in our life?
Marriage.
Thank you. How about marriage? Okay, when you get married, you have a copy of the covenant? What's it called? A ketubah. Where do we keep our ketubah?
Safe place.
Where do we keep our ketubah? All right. Jacob and Laban, they make a covenant, parity covenant. You stay away from me, I'm going to stay away from you. I'm not going to get close to you, and I'm not going to mess with you. That's a parity covenant. Now they come, Exodus 19, they come to Mount Sinai, and God says, I'm going to take you for myself. I'm going to make you a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. In other words, I'm going to marry you. I'm going to marry you. I'm taking you into my house. Exodus 24. This is the actual covenant. After the 10 words are given. All the way to Exodus 24, which is next week's Torah portion. Then he said to Moshe, come up to the Lord, you and Aharon, Nadav and Avihu, and 70 of the elders, and you shall worship at a distance. Moshe alone, however, shall approach the Lord, but they shall not approach. Then Moshe came and reported to the people all the words of the Lord and all the mishpatim, and all the people answered with one voice and said, now he's presenting the covenant, and now they say, Na'aseh v'nishma. All the words that the Lord has spoken, we will do. They don't say and here yet. He's presented the covenant. This is the second time they've said all the words that's spoken we will do, right? Second time. Then he got up early in the morning, built an altar, 12 memorial stones, sent young men. They made offerings of burnt offerings and bulls and peace offerings. And they took half of that blood and they threw it on the people. And here's a picture of them throwing it on the people. And half the blood they put on the altar. Yeah? Stay with me. Moshe took half of the blood, put it in basins, and the other half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. Then he took the scroll of the covenant. What scroll of what? Where did that come from? Where did that come from? He wrote it all down. Now this is in next week's Torah portion after he gives him like 200 mishpatim. He wrote everything down that he's gotten so far. And he read it. So now they've got something written. And they're covered in blood. The blood of the covenant. God says, this is the blood of my covenant. Now they say, all that the Lord has spoken, na'aseh v'nishma. This is the third time they've said a declaration of 3 million people all at the same time. First time they said na'aseh. Second time they said na'aseh. Third time they say na'aseh v'nishma. All that the Lord has spoken, we will what? Do and then hear. Listen. To it. Not to you, to it. Why? Because now they got the covenant. Now they got something to look at. So, ask it again. There's 2 copies of the covenant. Where did Israel keep theirs? In the ark. In the ark. In the most precious place they possibly could have in their life. In the most holy spot in that ark, in the most holy spot in the Holy of Holies, in the most holy spot in the tabernacle, in the most holy spot, the 500 cubit top of the Temple Mount, in the most holy city, Jerusalem, in the most holy land, the Holy Land. It's just holy, 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 until it's that tiny crumb, that tiny little spot, a pinprick of the most holy place on the planet. That's where they put their copy of the covenant. Where did God put his? Okay. I'm not going to go through all these. I want to read this. The 2 tablets of testimony. What's the reason for 2 tablets? They correspond to the 2 heavens. The heaven and the earth, which is God and man. They correspond to the bride. Who's the bride? Israel. And the groom. Who's the groom? God. They correspond to the 2 wedding attendants. Who are the 2 wedding attendants? Moshe and Elijah. And they correspond to this world and the world to come. That's why there's 2 covenants. And there's 2 parts of the Torah. They're both the covenant. Now, if this doesn't make you mad now, something's wrong. And I have this here on purpose. I want you to read this. These are not my words. There's thousands of entries like this on the internet. But the question is, why were the is it like, what is this with the 2 tablets? That's what the question was about, the 2 tablets. And this is from edible.com and a response by a typical Christian. Because the 10 commandments were God's laws and the laws of Moses were man's laws. And these were the laws that God abolished. This is what most of the believers believe. This is not strange. This is not strange. It should make you mad, but it's not strange. This is what most believers believe. When Yeshua said, love God above all and love your neighbor as yourself, he was saying, keep my commandments. Which ones? And show loving kindness, mercy, and forgiveness to men on earth. How? We're given no instruction how. In this way, we would be loving as God loves. In what way would we be loving as God loves? You just got rid of everything that tells us how. You see the circular logic?
Yeah.
And Yeshua would cover our sins against God's commandments. Like they're bad, and so we have to be covered against them. If we loved each other as he showed us to do, and we are not to be arrogant in keeping God's commands because it is his spirit that allows us to do so. But when we are not keeping his commandments, whatever those are, We are no different than the world. Now, this is not strange. This is what most believers are taught throughout their entire life. Most believers, but they can't say these words because it's hard for them to put this stuff into words. But this is what I'd say conservatively 90% of all churches teach. So this is not strange.
News to me.
Well, that's good. That's good. But this is what most believers come into the world believing and are taught throughout their whole life. Where is the covenant here that God made with Israel? Gone. Gone. Because remember, there's God's commandments and then there's man's commandments, which Moshe gave us. So I wanted you to see that. In Judaism, this is how it works. God betrothed Israel at Mount Sinai. That was the betrothal. That was him putting the ring on the finger and saying, I'm going to marry you later. And so in Judaism, we have a ketubah, which is the driest thing in the world. You ever read a ketubah? The text of a ketubah? And I promise 200 zuzim to the bride who's coming in and the nedarim. And they're also giving an additional sum of 100 matan. And then the zuzim are going to go into a special fund that will be saved for later. And this promise is made. We're also bringing into the wedding a list of these things. It's just dry as it can be. Hold on. It is a picture of this. But if you don't know that, it's the driest thing in the world. It's a covenant. It is a promise to give this amount. And where do Jews keep that ketubah? On the wall. Prominently displayed on their wall as a beautiful piece of art. Here's 4 that I've done, but I could have put 1 million up there. Yes?
I want to go back to the other, what you were talking about. I remember Governor Cuomo of New York someone said to him, mentioned that God had given us the law. Maybe somebody else in here heard him. He said, God didn't give us a law. We make the law. And I never understood him.
Governor Cuomo said, God didn't give us a law. I'm trying to get it on tape.
But he was taught that.
I'm trying to get it on tape. They can't hear you. They can't hear you. They can hear me. So Governor Cuomo said, somebody said something about God's law, and Governor Cuomo said, God didn't give any laws. We give laws.
Man makes the law.
Man makes laws. Okay. Well, people believe a lot of stuff. So in Judaism, we have a ketubah. That's where we keep our covenant. We keep it prominently displayed on our wall. Israel had their copy of the covenant in the ark, right? All right. Jeremiah 2:2 says, I remember regarding you the devotion of your youth, the love of your kalulot. A kala is a bride. So the love of your bridals. There's really no way to translate that in English. The love of your brideism. You're following after me in the wilderness through a land not sown. So this is saying they were a bride at Shavuot, yes?
Yeah.
Comes right out and tells us. So there's 2 copies of the covenant. They're both the same. That's why there's 10 on one and 10 on the other. It's a picture of God having a copy of the covenant, us having a copy of the covenant. And it's kept in the most precious place that we've got. So, again, where did God keep his? Now, Rashi says, the 16th century Kabbalistic work, Reshit Chochmah, teaches that the ark is a symbol of the human heart. Yeah. And in Reshit Chochmah, which is hard to find, I finally found it. It says, we can further learn from the words of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, from the Zohar, who said, the heart's pocket. Don't picture pocket, picture container. The heart's container is the ark. In other words, the ark is a picture of the heart. So where do you think God's going to keep his copy? In our hearts.
Like you said.
That's what it means. It is known that within the ark were the tablets and the shards of the tablets. Thus, it is fitting for a person's heart to be full of Torah and to now look at this, and to represent the shards of the tablets. One's heart must be broken and downtrodden in order to be prepared for receiving the Shekhinah, the Holy Spirit. Isn't that a trip?
That's why Jesus died himself.
Which only resides in broken vessels. Which only resides in broken vessels. What only resides in broken vessels? None of you paid attention. The Shekhinah, the Holy Spirit. In order to be prepared for receiving the Shekhinah, the Holy Spirit, which only resides in broken vessels. What only resides in broken vessels? The Holy Spirit, which is the Torah. They're one and the same, right?
So the broken tablets
And
are in the ark too.
That's correct. The broken tablets were in the ark too.
Didn't know that.
Both the whole and the broken. A broken and contrite heart, God will never despise.
Right.
That's pretty trippy, huh? So, where would God keep his copy?
In our hearts.
He's got to find a heart somewhere.
He sent the words into their hearts.
Right, he's got to find a heart somewhere. Now, Exodus 25, we sang this. Ve'asu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham. Create for me a tabernacle, that I may dwell in them. Inside of them. Inside of, so that's, that's the verse that shows up right before him giving the Tavnit. According to all that I'm going to show you as the Tavnit of the tabernacle, the Tavnit of the furniture, that's how you're going to make it.
Yeah.
So, along with him saying, create a Mishkan so I can dwell in people, he then gives the pictures. Yeah? That's the covenant. There's the covenant of the curse of the law and the covenant of the pictures, and they come together. Jeremiah 31, that's why it says this. I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel. When did God make the old covenant?
Shavuot.
Shavuot. It's actually the day after Shavuot, right? The day after Shavuot. Yes? Because it says he got up early in the morning the next day.
Oh,
Yeah? And then they made the covenant. He says, I'm going to make a new covenant. This is not about Jesus Christ. This is about the covenant he's going to make with Israel. What is that covenant? This is the covenant. What is? I will make with the house of Israel. I'll put my Torah inside of them. Both the whole and the broken in the ark. Ark is a picture of the heart. So what does he put in the heart? What does he put in the heart? The Torah. Isn't that a trip? So I'm going to ask this. Whose heart does he put it in?
Israel.
Israel. Period. That's all it says. Except it says the house of Judah. It says the house of Israel and the house of Judah. A new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. He doesn't say with the whole world. He says with Israel. That's the most precious thing he's got. And he finds hearts in the house of Israel and the house of Judah, and that's where he puts his Torah. That's his copy of the covenant. So we keep our copy of the covenant in our heart. And God keeps his copy of the covenant in our heart. They both end up on the wall, on the same wall. Why? Because in a ketubah is between who and who? The bride and the groom. And they're both becoming one, and they have the same house. They don't have different houses, do they? They got one house, they got one wall, they stick it on that wall together. That's why there's two copies of the covenant that are the same. They're the same. There's no new covenant, new testament of Jesus. That doesn't exist. The new covenant is that God's going to put the Torah into Israel's heart. Now, Yeshua at Pesach said, this wine is the wine of the Brit Hadashah, the new covenant. And then in There's two passages in the New Testament where Shaul says we're ministers of the new covenant, not of the letter that kills, but of the spirit that gives life. What does that mean, the letter that kills? I thought these letters were fantastic. What's he Very good. He's talking about the curse of the law. Because they both came together at the same time. The curse of the letters and the pictures in the letters. We're not ministers of the curse of the law. We're ministers of the pictures in the Torah. That's life. That you're supposed to put on your heart. Does that make sense?
Isn't it more of him renewing the covenant rather than a brand new one?
I don't know. The word in Hebrew is chadash. It means new.
Okay.
So I don't know. You're parsing words in English, so I don't know how to help you with that. In Hebrew, it's chadash, new. Okay. One last thing. It's still for the future. It hasn't happened yet. This new covenant hasn't happened yet.
No, it's for the day of the Lord.
It's for the day of the Lord. Hosea 3 says it. It will come about in that day that you're not going to call me Ishi. I'm sorry, you will call me Ishi, my husband, and you're not going to call me Baali anymore, my master, my Baal. In that day, I will make a covenant for them with the animals and the birds and the crawling things and eliminate. In other words, I'm going to make a covenant with all the animals that before would kill you, and now they're not going to kill you. They're going to be nice to you because I made a covenant with them. And eliminate the bow and the sword and war, and they'll lie down in safety. I will eras, betroth. I will betroth you to me forever. I will betroth you to me in righteousness and justice, in chen, grace and compassion. And I'll betroth you to me in faithfulness. Then you'll know the Lord. And remember, it said here, they will be my people. They will not teach again each one his neighbor, know the Lord. Why? They'll all know me. There will be no need for that.
That's definitely not happened yet.
That has definitely not happened yet, is right. Yes.
Michael, this is the way I'm reading this. Go back one slide. Okay, this is the way I'm reading, where it says days are coming. This is the way I'm reading. When the kingdom is coming, when I will make in the kingdom. Let me see. Kingdom
Yes.
is coming when I will make.
In the day of the Lord, I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. That's what he's saying. In that day, in the day of the Lord. And here it says it. So this hasn't happened yet. Messianic Jews are all hyped up. They love this passage in Jeremiah 33 as if Yeshua fulfilled this. He did not.
Right.
He couldn't have because the king had been here.
That's right. He did not. This is going to happen when the Jewish people are fulfilled in that marriage. Not everybody in the world. The Jewish people. Because that's the most precious area of God. There is no... Now we're back to the very first thing I said when we came here 16 hours ago. Hours ago. See if anybody remembers. Hours ago. Very first thing I said.
Oh yeah, why are the tents lovely?
Right.
Jews live in them.
How lovely are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. They're beautiful. It's the most precious thing to God. Get it? So we need to turn like a ship turning on the ocean. We need to turn our hearts toward this. The tents, the house of the Jews. Because that's where God wants to do what he's going to do.
Where he wants to dwell.
And where he wants to dwell. And we're supposed to be plugged into that. Let's pray. Thank you, Lord, that you find the tents of Israel and Jacob so lovely. That it's the most precious place to you, and that's where you want to hang your ketubah. I thank you, Abba, that our hearts can be like the ark. They can also be disgusting, but they can be like the ark to hold your Torah. And I ask that you'd help us to recognize the broken shards of the Torah in us and help us to identify the full pieces of the ketubah in us, both of them. In the name of Yeshua, I ask that you'd weave together your Torah and your Ruach throughout your world. In the name of Yeshua. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Let's do Kiddush.